In 2026, the median student loan balance for a 4-year degree graduate is $37,000. The median starting salary for that same graduate is $47,000. And the percentage of graduates working in a field directly related to their degree within 1 year of finishing is 41%. Three numbers sitting next to each other, and if something about that combination feels off to you, good. That instinct is the beginning of an honest answer to this question. Here's what this video is going to do. Not argue a side. Not tell you college is dead, or that everyone should go, or that the answer depends on your passion. It's going to show you the actual variables in this calculation, with real 2026 numbers, so that by the end of this, you have something no opinion piece ever gave you, a framework for calculating your specific answer. The question, is college worth it, has been treated like a values debate for years. It isn't. It's a math problem. And the math has a specific answer once you know which numbers to put in. The reason this question has felt impossible to answer isn't because the answer is complicated. It's because almost every source discussing it has been working with the wrong inputs. Here's the most common version of the argument for college. The average bachelor's degree holder earns $1.2 million more over a lifetime than a high school graduate. That number is real. It also tells you almost nothing useful. It averages a neurosurgeon with a philosophy graduate. It averages someone who graduated debt-free on a full scholarship with someone carrying $85,000 in loans. It averages 1990 outcomes with 2026 outcomes, as if the labor market didn't change between them. When you average across that much variation, the number stops being information and starts being noise. Here's what the data actually shows when you disaggregate it. In fields like computer science, nursing, and engineering, 4-year degree holders show strong employment rates and salary trajectories that, in many cases, still justify the investment when the debt is kept below a specific threshold. In fields like communications, general business, and liberal arts, the employment in-field rate within 1 year drops below 35%, and the median starting salary relative to debt load produces a repayment timeline that stretches past a decade. That's not a judgment on those fields. That's the math behaving differently depending on what you put into it. And here is the part that almost no "is college worth it" conversation includes. The comparison isn't college versus nothing. It's college versus a specific set of alternatives that have their own numbers. And those numbers have changed significantly in the last 4 years. The debate has been conducted as if the only alternative to a 4-year degree is unemployment or a vague idea of entrepreneurship. That is not what the labor market looks like in 2026. But before we get to those alternatives, let's be precise about what actually goes into this calculation. Because most people are running it with one variable when it requires 4. Variable 1, total cost. Not the sticker price, not the price before aid, the actual out-of-pocket cost after every grant, scholarship, and subsidy, plus the interest that will accumulate on whatever portion is borrowed during the years you're enrolled and not yet repaying. The reason this matters, sticker prices for 4-year institutions now average $108,000 for public universities over 4 years and over $220,000 for private. After aid, those numbers drop significantly for many students. But the distribution is wide, and the average conceals cases where aid covers almost everything and cases where it covers almost nothing. The number you need is your specific net cost, not the average. Variable 2. Field-specific employment rate. Not graduation rate, not general employment rate. The percentage of graduates in your specific field who are employed in a role that requires, or meaningfully uses, their degree within 12 months of graduating. This number varies so dramatically by field that using an overall average is functionally meaningless. When you look at field-specific data from the National Center for Education Statistics and the Bureau of Labor Statistics, what you see is not a gentle slope. It's a significant cliff between high utilization fields and low utilization fields. Variable 3. Time to income. A 4-year degree takes 4 years before you're earning. A 2-year nursing program takes 2. An apprenticeship in a skilled trade often pays a wage from day 1. A structured self-study path into a tech role can produce income in 8 to 14 months for candidates who execute it well. Time matters in this calculation for 2 reasons. The obvious one, you're not earning during those years. The less obvious one, that time has a cost even if you're not borrowing. Because every month you're in school is a month you're not building the professional track record that compounds. Variable 4, and this is the one most people forget entirely, is opportunity cost, not in the abstract. The specific income and career progression you would have accumulated on an alternative path during those same 4 years. If a 2-year alternative path produces $45,000 in year 1 and $55,000 in year 2, the opportunity cost of a 4-year degree relative to that path starts at $100,000 before you've counted a single dollar of tuition. That doesn't make the degree wrong, but it makes the comparison honest. Run all 4 variables together and the math looks very different than the lifetime earnings headline suggested. For some fields and some cost structures, the degree wins clearly. For others, the alternative path wins by a margin that isn't close. The math was never hidden. Nobody just showed it to you. Now here is the part of this conversation that is specific to 2026, and that changes the calculation for a significant number of families in a way that has not been widely explained in plain language. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, signed into law and effective July 1, 2026, made material changes to how federal student loans work, specifically to Parent Plus loans and Grad Plus loans. And if your family's college funding plan included either of those, the calculation you were running before that date is not the calculation you're running now. Here's what changed. Under the previous structure, Parent Plus loans were available in virtually unlimited amounts up to the full cost of attendance, with repayment terms that could be extended and income-driven options available through consolidation. The OBBBA placed aggregate borrowing caps on Parent Plus loans and restructured the income-driven repayment access in ways that reduced the flexibility many families were counting on as a backstop. For Grad Plus borrowers, students pursuing graduate or professional degrees, the changes are similarly significant, with new annual and aggregate limits that affect programs that previously relied on Grad Plus to cover the gap between other aid and full tuition. What this means in practice: if your family's plan assumed that Parent Plus loans would be available to fill whatever gap grants and subsidized loans didn't cover, that assumption needs to be re-examined against the new caps. If a graduate program was funded in part by the expectation of uncapped Grad Plus access, that program's effective cost has likely increased. This is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to recalculate before signing anything. Because here's what the OBBBA change actually does to the 4-variable framework. It raises the effective total cost for a specific subset of borrowers, the ones who are planning to use plus loan flexibility as a funding mechanism. And when total cost goes up without a corresponding increase in field employment rate or starting salary, the math on the degree moves in one direction. This is the variable that most families haven't recalculated yet. The tuition number on the university website hasn't changed. The FAFSA award letter looks the same, but the mechanism that was supposed to fill the gap has different terms than it did 12 months ago. That is the 2026 factor, and it belongs in your calculation. If you want to run this calculation with your specific numbers, your actual net cost, your field's employment data, your timeline, your alternative comparison, there's a pre-built tool in the description. It's a spreadsheet that takes the 4 variables from this video and produces a specific number: the real lifetime return on your degree decision versus 5 alternative paths. Not an estimate, not a general case. Your number. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. So let's look at what the current data shows, field by field, for the decisions most people are actually making. STEM fields, computer science, engineering, nursing, data science, generally show the strongest ROI at public university tuition levels when debt is kept below 1x first-year salary. The credential still carries hiring weight in many of these fields, and the employment in-field rate within 12 months remains above 60% for most of them. Note the word preferred, not required. That distinction is showing up in more postings than it did 3 years ago, and it matters to this calculation because preferred means portfolio-eligible candidates are now competing for roles that were previously credential-gated. Business and management, highly variable. A finance or accounting degree from a school with strong regional employer relationships can still show solid employment numbers. A general business degree from a school without those relationships shows some of the weakest field employment rates in the dataset. The institution matters here as much as the degree. Skilled trades, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, welding, are showing labor market data that has shifted significantly. Median wages in these fields have risen faster than inflation for 4 consecutive years. Apprenticeship completion rates produce full journeyman wages that, in many metro markets, exceed the starting salaries of 4-year degree holders in non-technical fields. with zero tuition cost and an income stream during training. The math on trades versus a non-technical 4-year degree, when run honestly against all 4 variables, is not the comparison most people expect. Tech, specifically roles in software development, UX, data analysis, and cybersecurity, is the field where the credential versus portfolio question is most actively in motion. Skills-based hiring has moved from a trend piece to a documented structural shift. Over 650 companies, including Google, IBM, Apple, and a significant portion of the Fortune 500, have formally removed the 4-year degree requirement from a range of technical roles. Their internal data showed that credentialed candidates were not outperforming portfolio candidates on actual job performance metrics. The credential was never the point. The proof of capability was. In tech, what that means specifically is this: a structured, self-study path that produces a demonstrable portfolio. Not a general sense of, "I've been learning," but a specific set of projects that solve real problems, is now a competitive entry point for roles that, 5 years ago, screened by degree first. The timeline for that path, executed with structure, runs 8 to 14 months for most people, at near zero cost compared to a 4-year degree, with income starting at the point of hire rather than 4 years after enrollment. Now run that against the 4 variables. Total cost, near zero versus $37,000 median debt. Field employment rate, roles open to portfolio candidates versus degree-required postings. Time to income, 8 to 14 months versus 48 plus. Opportunity cost, income accumulating during the alternative path rather than after it. That is not a complete picture for every person in every situation. There are fields where the credential is a legal requirement: medicine, law, architecture, certain engineering licensures. If yours is one of them, you'll know it specifically. It won't be a vague feeling that you probably need the degree. It will be a licensing board with explicit requirements. If that's not your situation, everything in this video applies. If you want to stop estimating and start calculating, the degree ROI calculator in the description takes your specific numbers and runs the comparison this video laid out. Your field, your cost, your timeline, your number. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. When you ran the numbers just now, even roughly, which of the 4 variables surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. Here's what this video was actually about. Not whether college is good or bad. Not whether the alternative paths are easy or certain. It was about replacing a debate with a calculation and giving you the variables you need to run it honestly for your specific situation. The question, is college worth it, has kept a lot of people in place for a long time. Not because the answer is unknowable, because the answer requires specific numbers that almost no one puts in front of you in the same conversation. Total cost, your real number, not the sticker price. Field employment rate, your field, not the overall average. Time to income, your timeline against a real alternative, not against nothing. Opportunity cost, what you would have built during those same years on a different path. You now have the framework. You now know what goes in, and you know that the 2026 version of this calculation includes a variable, the OBBBA changes, that wasn't in the version from 12 months ago. The next time someone tells you the answer to this question is obvious, in either direction, you'll know what they left out. You'll know which variables they didn't include. And you'll know that the calculation, run honestly, doesn't produce the same answer for everyone. It produces your answer. That number is now yours to run. Before you sign anything, before you commit to a path that was decided by other people's math, you were right to question it.